Okay, so today in Blender, we're going to be looking at the basics of modeling. Now, your screen should look something like this. Um, so, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be building a spaceship. I found it a good example just to get your head around the basic shortcuts and control of the geometry. Okay, so if you have a laptop, you won't have a numpad. The numpad is pretty important, as I stated last episode. It allows you to control, well, finally control your view and your orientation. So if that's the case and you are using a laptop, there's an easy fix for it. You just go to File, User Preferences, let it load, and then you go to Editing, or Input. You go to Input, and you go down here where it says Emulate Numpad. I've already got it checked for some reason. I'll uncheck that. If you don't have a numpad, you want to check it. I have a numpad. And another thing, if you're using a Mac, I apologize. All the shortcuts I will be saying are for Windows. However, I will put in the description a link to all the shortcuts, so you'll be able to help yourself there. So this is what you have. Now, hopefully you know how to control your 3D viewport. If you don't, just middle mouse button is to orbit. Right click is to select. It's very simple. If you don't have these arrows, you can see it down here. That may be a problem. You may have this instead. Just click it to here. So, we're going to be building a spaceship. Now, first off, I don't want you to follow exactly what I do. I don't want you to come out of this tutorial with the same exact spaceship for two reasons. One, my spaceship is going to be really, really bad because it's going to be very quickly made. Two, it's a common problem now, but people who view tutorials only know how to make what is in the tutorial. They don't know how to apply the knowledge, usually, to other areas. So I want you to try to extrapolate the information that I'm going to give you and apply it to something else, or apply it to your own designs. Don't try and replicate me, because it's not going to help you as an artist in this 3D world. Okay, so this is Blender. Now, a spaceship is traditionally mirrored on both sides. So as you can see, if we go into edit mode by pressing tab with the cube selected, and if you don't have a cube, you just press Shift A, it'll go to mesh or cube, or alternatively, you can go down to create and cube. So in edit mode by pressing tab, and if we select face mode, which is down here, these three buttons. So this is vertex mode, so I can select all the vertices. This is edge, very self-explanatory, and face. So whichever mode you're in, you can control that aspect of the geometry. Okay. So as you can see, if I change this side, and to keep a change in place, you left click, and to undo a change while you're in the midst of it, you right click. So by pressing G, which is like the grab tool, and pulling, I can change it. But as you can see, it's not very symmetrical, is it? It's very, well, ugly. So Control Z that. Now what we want to do is set it up so that whatever I do to this side, well, whatever I do to this side is done to the other side. So by pressing Control R or Command R on Apple, you get this. This is a loop cut, and it's very useful. If we right click that and then left click it to snap it to the center, we have a nice clean loop right down the center of our cube. By pressing 1, going into the front view, we can see. There it is. So what we want to do is we want to erase this entire side of the cube, or this side, depending on which one you want. But I usually go for the left side. So in order to do that, quick and easy way, just go to vertice selection mode, press A to deselect everything, or AA, and then press Z for wireframe mode. Now, while you're in wireframe mode, you can select geometry behind geometry. So if I'm not in wireframe mode and I select this vertice here with the box tool as such, it will only select that vertice. So if I go back to the front, then press Z to go into wireframe mode and do box again, as you can see, it selected 2 of the vertices. It selected the vertice behind that. Think of it as that you've made it like a ghost and you can see through it and you can grab something on the other side. That's what it essentially is doing. So with that, by doing that, by pressing B for box selection, you can click and drag over these 2 vertices here. As you can see, we've selected these 2 vertices. Then you press delete or X and delete vertices, not edges, not faces, vertices. And voila, it's gone. Okay, so you got half a cube. That's very useful. I think that's a ship right there. Actually, a cube is a ship, isn't it? The ball cube. Off topic. Continuing. Here, in your properties, under this little spanner, this is your modifiers tab. It is very useful. So we want to add a modifier. We want to add a mirror modifier. So go down here to mirror. And as you can see, it's mirrored it on the x-axis. You can tell it's the x-axis by this red line, and see this corresponding red line here. Alternatively, if you want to, if you have cut a different loop, you can change the axis until you're happy. So hit X, the x-axis. Okay, we're not done yet in this mirror. So as we can see, it does mirror, doesn't it? Yep, that looks good. However, if I select this vertice, uh-oh, not very good, is it? That's not going to work. So, in order to fix this problem, we just press this little button here, clipping. So if I do it now, it's stuck together. It's one vertice. Think of this as merging the 2 vertices in the created in the scene. Okay, so now our cube is mirrored. And whatever we do to this side is done to the opposite side. This is very important. So now we can begin to create our ship. So a few tools that we're going to be using. I want to keep this as basic as possible. So there's E for extrude. So an extrusion is basically, well, an extrusion. So if I press E and then pull, I have extruded that face. You can do it with edges as well and vertices. However, it is better done with faces for this example. There will be times when you need to do it with vertices and edges. However, for the sake of simplicity, we're going to be keeping it with faces. Okay, so that's E. E for extrude, very simple. Next is S. S is for scale. So if I press S, I can scale. It's nice, isn't it? Okay. Another one is R. And I'm pretty sure you've guessed it already. R is for rotate. Okay, now with the rotate, it's rotating from the normal of your view. Well, parallel. Actually, no, perpendicular to the normal of your view. So, if you want to rotate on a certain axis, you can either select this button down here, and that gives you the rotate sphere, and you can rotate to your heart's content. I honestly don't really use that much for modeling. I use it more for animating. But another nifty trick is if you press R and then press the axes that you wish to rotate around, such as the X axis, you can rotate it that way. Okay, it's very useful. Alternatively, you could just go to the perpendicular of where you want to rotate and just rotate it that way. So that is 3 very basic shortcuts. And then, of course, there's G for grab, but you already know that one. Oh, yeah, and another thing before I forget. If you grab while clipping selected, let's say I grab this vertex here and drag it into the center. Uh-oh, it's stuck. And that's what clipping does. Whatever meets in the center is merged. So that's just a note. If you come across that, it just controls it or commands it. It's a bit of a. I remember I was always confused by that when I first began. Okay, so you got pretty much the basics already. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a basic outline. So I'm going to select this face and I'm going to extrude it out to here. And I'm going to scale it on the Z axis. So I press Z to get that line there. And now I can just scale it down that. Okay, now I want to move it down here. Okay, nice little cockpit. Pretty awful. Next, what am I going to do? Maybe just elongate the ship just to make it a bit more streamlined. Again, I'm going to scale it on the Z axis or Z and bring it up on the Z axis. Bit of a helicopter shape. Okay. Wonderful. Now, at this point here, I might want to add some wings. Now, there are two ways of going about this. You can use the loop cut, as I said, and scroll up for 2, or just select and go number of cuts, 2, and then you can extrude the geometry that you've created, the face that you've created. Or, alternatively, you can select everything by pressing A and then press W for specials and subdivide. And what's that done? What that has done is it has divided each of your faces by a number that you specify here. As you can see, it can become very dense very quickly. You want to try and keep your models as low poly as possible. It's there's a rule. Depending on the significance of the model and how much screen time and how important it is and how much you see it, that's how much you want to invest in it. So, but for this example, it's just going to be a very simple model. So I like the loop cut method personally. It's just more control. You can use any method you want. So I got that little piece of wing. I'll extrude that out. Lovely. Now maybe take it back a bit. And I'll loop cut this, select this edge and bring that out. Select this edge, bring that out. Maybe I'll go face mode again. Grab all these, just bring them down into that. So at this point, you might want to add your booster engines or whatever type of engines you want. So if you are in edit mode, which is again tab, and you press Shift A or create a geometry while in edit mode, it will become a part of that object. So if you go out, so if I go create a sphere, for example, scale that up, it's become a part of that object because I was in edit mode. As you can see, it moves with the object. Now, the problem with that is that I've applied the modifier to the object, the mirror modifier. So if I move this sphere, we see we get a whole new problem. One way of working around this is when you're adding geometry, you might want to add it to a specific place. So we can do that by moving the 3D cursor. So let's move it here and just add a cylinder. See, it's done it. Or alternatively, you can add the object in the center and then uncheck clipping, move it to the side and check it again. Each to their own. So I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees. I forgot to tell you that you can specify how many degrees that you want how many units you want any of the commands to take. So if you use any of the shortcuts, for example, R, followed by a number, it is going to do that. So in rotation's case, it's going to rotate by a specified number of degrees by default. So what I've done there is just rotate it by 90 degrees. So now scale it down, press G, put it up there, grab that face, bring it out, grab that face, bring it down there, scale that, extrude this, scale it, and extrude it inwards to create a nice little opening. Looking very fancy. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully yours will be looking a lot better than this. And if it isn't, don't worry. I remember my first ship. It sucked. Okay. So there's my engines. Very nice, isn't it? Well, look at this. We don't want that, do we? So, to get rid of these edges on this supposedly smooth surface, what we can do is we can go to Tools. If we jump out of Edit mode, and under Shading, we can select Smooth. Now, this is basically how the light is interpreted on the object. But as you can see, it's smoothed out even the flat geometry. So to fix that, we can just add another modifier and it will stack. And we can add the edge split modifier. And as you can see, it's split the edges so that the flat edges are still flat and the edges at a specified angle are smooth. And that is a very nice little trick because it's a non-destructive edit. So, as you can see, we got our little ship. We might want to add a few guns to it. Let's go add some little guns over here. How about that? Let's go get another cylinder. Scale that down to here. And then scale on the y-axis. Very Star Warsy. Very unnecessary long as well. It's like the ship's trying to compensate. Make it like a. I like the cannon sort of effect, the hydraulic effect. Excuse me. Okay, so maybe I'll just. Here's a good example. Something that you may want to know. If you want to select an entire object but don't want to like select every single face, you can just press L while hovering over the object or after selecting a geometry of the object. Just press L and boom. The entire object within the object is within the mesh is selected. Excuse me. So I'll just drag that in there. And as you can see, the smooth hasn't been applied to that yet because we applied the smooth before we brought that in. So I'll just click smooth again, and there we go. Looking very, very mean. It's kind of like an extremely OP fighter with extremely poor aerodynamics. Let's just drag this out like that. Give it a better look. And let's create the cockpit. So let's go select this face here. Select E for extrude, S for scale, and E for extrude again. There we go. Isn't that something? That is world-class CGI right there. Okay, so I'm going to call that not done yet. I just want to add a few more things. Maybe I'll just select this entire thing and duplicate it. So I'll press Shift D. Whoops, see there, I selected that as well accidentally. So good practice is press AA to select and deselect everything, just to make sure you have a clean selection. So I'll press Shift D to duplicate this, scale it, position it where I want it. I'll position it here. Then I have to create some little winglets to come out and meet it. So I'll squash it down on the y-axis as well. And then drag it out. So to get those winglets, as you can see, we already have some geometry here. However, it goes all the way to here, to this edge. So all you have to do is create another edge. So loop cut, Control R or Command R, and just drag that to there. Quick little tip, as you can see, that's got that little point in the loop. due to the geometry. If you want the loop to match the end or the beginning of the edge to either side of it, just press F or E, sorry, and then F to switch. So you press E, and that should straighten it out. And that's done. And let's just grab that one. Oops. Go back. No, not that one. That one. And just maybe rotate it a bit to make it more even. And there, beautiful, world class. And I might want to make a little, oops, a little tail. So I'll just loop cut and select this and drag it up. Looks awful. Oh well. It's finished. It's beautiful. What am I saying? Okay, so I'll press Control Alt 0 or Command Alt 0 on my numpad. So num 0 to enter the camera. Position it with Shift F, just for precision's sake. And you can rotate it. And then function 12 to render. Bang. That's my ship, isn't it? That deserves definitely deserves a what did they call it again? Academy Award for best computer CGI visual effects. Definitely right there. Best design. That's it. There we go. Wonderful, isn't it? So if you can't render it with F12, you just go here and render. Bang. Okay, so we've made our first ship, or you're still in the process of making your first ship. If you've missed a few things, just go back, rewatch it. All the information should be there. I've tried to keep it short, sweet, to the point. I really hope you've enjoyed this so far. And I want to thank you for watching. Just keep practicing at this method, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.